They're not just threatening them and doxing them, they're ambushing them. They're threatening their families. They're talking about kidnapping their families. They're, going after their colleagues. It's extremely dangerous, and the rhetoric has to stop.
That was Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She was on Fox and Friends earlier today, and she was sounding the alarm on dangers facing ICE officers. And this comes amid ramped-up resistance, some of it violent and potentially deadly. So here you're watching video that shows intense clashes earlier this week in San Francisco. ICE posting about it, saying this behavior is not protesting. Todd Lyons is acting ICE director. Something that Karen Bass, the mayor of L.A., just said caught my attention when she said, "How do we know that this is an arrest and not a kidnapping?" I'll turn it over to you. How would she know?
Well, I mean, Dana, you can see from all the video too, right? They say that ICE agents, they're not properly marked. You see them in their tactical gear, in their vest, where you plainly see FBI, ATF, ICE, HSI, ERO, whoever's out with us. So the mayor's claims are just totally false. And what she's doing is making people afraid of us. If LA wasn't a sanctuary city, we wouldn't have to go on the streets. If they turn these criminals over to us in a secure setting, we would not be out there. So what the mayor is doing is she's stoking the flames of this, and she's the one that's making it worse than what it really is.
I want to show you this graphic. The increase in attacks against ICE agents is up 690% from a year ago, from 10 in 2024 to 79 so far this year in 2025. When it comes to masks, would you describe them as more of a need than a want?
I would say that, Dana. If you like we have talked before, if you looked at the beginning of this administration, you looked even in December, November last year, we weren't wearing masks. ICE agents weren't wearing masks because they weren't afraid of their information being doxxed, their photos taken, addresses posted. But as you've seen the steady increase of when we started doing our law enforcement mission, that's when you saw, these left-wing activists, these groups start posting the names, faces of ICE agents, officers, and their families. So while I'm not a fan of the masks, I think we could do a better, but we need to protect our agents and officers, and I fully support them in that. I say it's a need because they need to protect their families. They need to go home safe at night. And if you just look at the ambush in Texas just recently, that's a pure sign right there that this rhetoric is really stepping up the violence. And it's getting worse.
Well, let's talk about some of the Democrats who have talked about this. Watch.
First of all, the importance and the urgency because of not just fear, Jen, but actual terror that people are feeling, not just in Los Angeles, but especially in Los Angeles, because it's clearly Donald Trump's target right now.
Some of the most inspiring things have been when people encircle courtrooms and refuse to allow ICE agents in.
Our local police department will not ever cooperate with ICE.
He goes on to say whatever their constitutional authority is, and I mentioned last night on the 5, the left has been saying that President Trump is a threat to our democracy. It will create an existential crisis for the United States of America. And then you have the mayor of Chicago saying that it doesn't matter what the constitutional authority is of ICE and the federal government, they're not going to cooperate.
Yeah, Dana, it's so frustrating because all we're actually doing is our law enforcement mission that we've constitutionally sworn to do. And when you look at a lot of the instances that we've done recently, you hear a lot of elected officials say, if ICE has a criminal warrant, if ICE has a warrant signed by a judge or a search warrant, well, now we do. And we're out there doing a law enforcement mission, and they still don't like what we're doing. And the more they say these crazy rhetorics that they won't work with us, or they're happy when they circle a courtroom or they stop an ICE arrest, all they're doing is putting the public at risk, and they're putting ICE officers and agents at risk. It's their rhetoric and what they're saying is what's making this situation worse, and what's really putting my men and women every day in harm's way. Because like you showed that graph, the increase is alarming and it's dangerous. You have ICE agents being hit, struck by vehicles, being shot at. Never in my whole career did I think that would happen for doing your law enforcement mission.
Right. Well, it's a story that is, unfortunately, very much on our radar, but we'll continue to cover it as it develops. Thank you, Todd Lyons of ICE.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.